podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hey Paul, how's it going?
Yeah, really, really good, thanks. The mighty Reds are back, baby.
Very much back. Apparently we like scoring late goals. What's up with all that?
We always did.
Yeah.
It's a hallmark of our way of being.
I tell you what, we spent half of last season bemoaning United's inability to play on the break. I think we might be quite good at playing on the break.
Yeah. That game was just so, it turned into such a kind of explosion of joy. So, the good bits of that game were so condensed. But I actually...
into 4 minutes at the end of the game,
Yeah, but I was quite pleased in a way. When we scored before half-time, it was such a kind of... It felt momentous. Not momentous as in... Momentous is way too big a word. It felt important in that we'd been comfortable almost all game against West Ham. It hadn't taken that long to break them down, but Swansea were a bit more stubborn. It was away from home. Rashford was clearly rattled by the fact that the crowd was on his back, and so it looked like he was really pushing too hard, and he felt like he wasn't getting enough protection from the referee. And then we needed to send a message that you can't park the bus against us because we'll just score from a set piece if you do that, that's such a potent weapon to have in our locker at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's right. There were lots of portions of that game that were a bit prosaic. I mean, United kept the ball really well, but it was going side to side, wasn't it? And Swansea defended well, 3 at the back, 5 at the back, 7 at the back, whatever it was. Their big problem last year was conceding goals. 70 goals conceded in the Premier League last season, and they clearly set out their stall to not let that happen against this United side. So it was important to get that goal. You're right. I think that completely changed the game. I mean, especially late in the game when Swansea were tired and actually trying to push. It really made a big difference for United. But, even then, goal just before half-time, a lot of the second half wasn't awesome, was it? I don't think United were, obviously going to be 4-0 winners for the whole of that game. A little bit like the West Ham game, really. But, all the work, all the possession, clearly played into United's favour because, Swansea, when they tried to open it out, they got hit with almost the first counter. When it got late into the game, Martial obviously made a big difference, and then Swansea were done after that and just got really ragged and kept giving the ball away.
I had a bet with someone, and I said that your opening pitch would be actually we laboured a bit to get the opener, and then it looked quite dangerous at 1-0. I feel like you didn't quite hit that level of it wasn't actually that good. It was a bit more moderate than that, I think. I actually didn't think we passed it side to side much before we scored. We definitely at 1-0 we were doing that a lot, I thought, but it was almost like we were kind of saying to Swansea, you do know we're winning, right? There's that one passage of play where Matic and Phil Jones just passed it back and forth 10, 15 times, maybe. It was a ridiculous number. It's like when you're playing a game of Pez and you're 4-0 up and you want to get your pass completion percentage up, so you just knock it back and forth to the central defender.
So someone's got a spot bet on there, who the highest pass completion between two players.
Yeah, but there were...
I think, okay, you're fair. It's fair enough, yeah. And, Mourinho talked after the game about letting the horses run free and we played happy football and all of that. And I think you'd certainly draw that conclusion from the final result. I'm not sure the whole of the game was like that, but that's more to do with Swan. I mean, it's partly to do with United's style. I think where there's risk associated with it, Mourinho is not going to let the horses run free all the time. But they got to a point in the game where United were just too good, and Swansea, as soon as they moved out of their shape, they were unable to cope. I think United will do that to a number of teams this season. It's that opening goal is an important one. So even with Mkhitaryan, who was very good, I thought, and Mata in there, they're two extremely creative players. It just feels a little challenging when a team is prepared to sit deep and narrow. And you can see why Mourinho might want a more direct player who's just going to hit the byline and put in crosses, because United will score a lot of goals from that kind of play too. Percentage football, cheap goals. And possibly a lot of goals from set pieces this season, which didn't happen last season. But we are a big team,
and those set pieces goals are so important because that just completely changes how you have to defend against United. It means you can't just stick 5 at the back, and like it was so evident as soon as Swansea went 4-4-2. There was a little passage of play where they looked quite dangerous for 5 minutes or so. But like you said, almost the first counter-attack, rip them apart, completely changes the nature of the game. And it was Mkhitaryan's kind of quick-witted creativity and his combination play with Martial rather than Mata, but kind of similar principle that opened that up. Because I think even if you did have a direct player but busting down the flanks, you're still then hoofing in crosses to kind of be dealt with by central defenders, because it's often going to be 1 against 3, isn't it, in the box at that point? So it's almost like actually the way we approached breaking down Swansea was to try and dance through the raindrops, and carve out an opening that way. And the one thing that does get you is a lot of set pieces in theory, because we are so equipped to play that way. And I actually think if Rashford was, there was the one that he well-backed into the keeper's arms when he just kind of went for the little dink instead of the corner. One-on-one, it was just an amazing chance. But also earlier he'd lashed a couple in from long range, which was because he was not. I think he really responded very badly to getting booed. It's very stupid. It's incredibly small. How are you going to boo Marcus Rashford of all the humans? Don't boo Marcus Rashford, you backward, small-minded fools. He's Marcus Rashford. He's a precious angel who we need to cherish. But anyway, they booed him because he dived at Swansea last season, which I don't think anyone remembered, apart from clearly Swansea fans do remember it. But yeah, and I thought
Well, it ruined their season, didn't it? Not the fact that they were shit all year. Yeah. I mean, look, I do get a sense that Rashford is a little bit frustrated. I mean, he's coming in off the left all the time. The chances that he has to go at goal are always cutting inside. He's playing against a very narrow back 5. Today, he didn't get an awful lot of sniffs, did he? And then the one big chance he had, as you say, he fluffed it. It'd be interesting to see. Martial's come on twice now and made a big impact. He had a good pre-season. He looks like he's got some of his mojo back. There's a very good case for him starting ahead of Rashford at the moment. He's just a bit more comfortable in that kind of wide forward area than Rashford. Not that Rashford isn't brilliant. Before I get hundreds of Twitter messages, I just wonder whether right now form says that Martial starts against Leicester next week.
But I think in a way there is something slightly reductive about that analysis, because in both games, Rashford has actually given the opposition a torrid time. And it's been that kind of lack of end product that's kind of been a problem, whereas Martial has had half a chance twice and just been like, oh, hello, bonjour, je m'appelle Anthony Martial, je fais beaucoup de buts. He's just straight up ice cold goal killer, which Rashford isn't yet. But so I think, a lot of people have said, we've had loads of questions about this, including one from friend of the show, Scott from Republic of Mancunia, who asked whether actually it's working with Martial coming on late, and whether Martial both times, by extension, the question is a bit like both times, both against West Ham and today, Martial's really benefited from having an exhausted defence to run at, and because Rashford's exhausted them all afternoon. So it does kind of work, although, I mean, I'm not saying this is the only reason, and I do think that on form you start Martial, but I think it's it would be a a wrong conclusion to draw in my mind to say that actually this is about Rashford being not that comfortable on the left wing. I think it's more like maybe there's just a percentage where he's trying a little bit too hard.
Yeah, maybe 10 dribbles attempted, 50% success rate, which, is okay, I guess. He's always going to do that, give him the ball in front of him, and he's going to take on players, but he's also always going to cut inside. Maybe there's just more in the locker in wide areas for Anthony Martial. But it's a good problem to have, isn't it? If we're choosing between those two for the left wing, I think that's it shows, and they're both in form and they're both playing well. Then United are in a very good position compared to last season when it was a bit of a struggle on the left a lot of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a shame to see Rashford struggle in the kind of final bit of the game, but he did, the whole thing about that missed chance is strikers have to be partly measured on whether or not they take those chances, but it is absolutely huge that they're making the runs to get in position to receive the ball one-on-one with the goalkeeper. That is a big thing. Not all forwards do that, do they? So there are some positives to be taken just from the fact that Rashford was in position to scoop that one-on-one into Fabianski's grateful arms.
Yeah. Elsewhere, what was good? Midfield pretty dominant. Pogba got his goal very, very nicely taken as well.
Were you worried? No, you watched the game on. You already knew that he hadn't been sent off. Watching it in real time, like that second tackle, which definitely is like not a yellow. It's definitely not a second yellow card. It's barely a first yellow card. Not that there should be a difference, but we all know there kind of is. But I had the fear, big time fear that he wouldn't make it to half time.
Well, yeah, I mean, some referees would have shown a red card. Some, if they were a bit more trigger happy than John Moss was, but good job that he wasn't, because he'd be looking at a ban and wouldn't have scored his goal. And it's 2-2 for Pogba now. Might shut a few critics up. And Lukaku, very nice finish for his goal. I thought almost as if he's quite intelligent on the pitch.
Very. Pardew questioning his cleverness after the game. Oh.
Yeah, look, I'm just going to call this what I think it is. I think it's just straight out racism. Mm-hmm. This is just going, he's black, so he's thick. Sorry, it's just I don't think this is acceptable. One of the other things actually for Anthony Martial's goal, he's taken the ball down with his chest and turned and made a brilliant flick. Which is the kind of thing he often got very wrong. I thought at Everton, he needs the ball in front of him to do very well. I'm not going to claim he's in 2 months with United he's suddenly become a brilliant player outside the box, but that was very nice and, funnily enough, very intelligent play. Helped set up a goal for United.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that goal that was kind of built on intelligence. Well, Lukaku's goal certainly was. Both, like, his movement for his goal is it's sublime, because he sees that everyone's getting muddled between Martial and Mkhitaryan, and how many times does that end with the ball kind of bobbling behind one of them and a Swansea clearance? But Lukaku plays the percentages and runs into this acres of space, and Mkhitaryan is quick enough to go, oh, look, there he is, just slide the ball. 4 assists in 2 games for Henrik Mkhitaryan. Pogba called him the assist man after the game, which I thought was nice.
It doesn't really ring that well, does it? It's not. No, it's not going to catch on, I don't think. But
no,
try and roll that into a song, Pete Boyle. So but yeah, 4, great. I mean, he's playing at number 10 as well, and he's definitely not a traditional number 10. But you can see why Mourinho likes him there, because he's very dynamic. He's direct, he runs, he's quick. He moves the ball quickly. He's not your classic sort of old-fashioned playmaker in the way that Juan Mata is, but Mata seems to have the freedoms coming off that right-hand side. He does the defensive stuff when he has to. Hasn't had to do very much defensive stuff at all in the last 2 games, and he augments the sort of creative part in the final third. But Mkhitaryan, I don't know if he was man of the match, but he was very, very good, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was given man of the match, but a lot of people said that man of the match probably should have gone to Phil Jones. It's absolutely outstanding at centre-back. Like, so many little good decisions, so many, like, bits where he cuts out play before danger comes, or bits where he gets himself in the way when danger is coming. Another excellent game for Jones.
Look, he's a good defender, isn't he? He's just made of glass, or something even weaker than glass, so he's going to get crocked soon enough. And then in the week, Mourinho talked about Lindelof needing a period of adjustment. So I guess we're not going to see him for 6 months or
December,
so.
yeah, that's
Standard, isn't it? We should ask for a discount on payment or something on new players, because they don't play for the first 6 months. That's a shame, but we'll see how maybe Lindelof will play in some of the Carling Cup games or something like that, whatever it's called this year. But Bailly and Jones looks like a very fine partnership, doesn't it? It's working well. Blint, a left back, still a potential weakness there, although he didn't have to do an awful lot against Swansea, and Luke Shaw back in training this week, so he'll be back, apparently. So media reports say Mourinho impressed with his effort over the summer to try and get fit. And United will trigger the extra year in his contract. So that's as much about protecting the asset as anything. But we'll see whether they offer him a new contract or not. I presume they would, just unless they're going to sell him because they want to keep the value. But, so that's the one challenging area of the team, I guess, left back. But apart from that, defence looked very good, midfield extremely strong, and now look good on the break and at set pieces. Good times.
It's pretty exciting, isn't it? Eric Bailly scored a goal, his first. So lovely, and but really smart and alert as well. Just was it Pogba that headed it off? Of course, it was Pogba that headed it off the bar. Pogba and the bar making old acquaintances. But Bailly was just...
That could sound wrong. I don't think he's a big drinker.
No, I meant the crossbar, purely the crossbar. But just lovely to see Bailly kind of so alert. And as at Eddie Rose 13 sent to me on Twitter, you should have known that kind of chest-high tackle would result in Eric Bailly's first goal. Because he did kind of chest-high tackle the ball into the net. But
and he's lucky the Swansea defender wasn't nearer to him, otherwise that might have been called a foul.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he was just quicker than everyone else to get there and poke it in, and it did need to be poked in.
Yeah, it did indeed, because it was bouncing up and down on the line. Once the goals started raining in, the feeling, because it had been a bit tough in the first half, and you did wonder, okay, well, it was last week just a complete false dawn, is this going to be like last season again? When he brought Fellaini on at 1-0 up, I was glad he brought Martial on at the same time, exactly the same time, because I was just worried. I was just like, oh no, are we going to give away a penalty in the but should not have worried. As friend of the show at Mark_Pud says, 5 out of goals scored with Fellaini on the pitch. Draw your own conclusions.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but he, Mourinho after the game talked about not having to, I can't remember the words he used now, not having to sort of shut down the game. He didn't use those words, but he could let the horses run free and all of that. I don't know that Fellaini's there to... He's not really a free-running horse, is he?
No, but he does run a bit like a horse, like a one that's not long been born and doesn't fully know where his knees are yet.
Kind of like a horse too.
Wow.
Maybe.
I have no evidence of that either way. It's lovely to see Martial play so brilliantly in his 2 cameos, and the numbers are really interesting. So it's 4 assists in 2 for Mkhitaryan, 2 goals in 2 for Pogba and Martial, and like in Martial's case, that's 2 goals in like half an hour. 3 in 2 for Lukaku, or you could say 4 in 3 if you include the Super Cup as well. Someone pointed out that Pogba scored in the Europa League final and the last game against Crystal Palace. So that's like he's got 4 in 5. Brilliant.
Yeah. Anthony Martial is working hard. He's confident. The French language connection is there to help him a lot and get to the level we know he can be, because potential is huge. Said Mourinho afterwards. So, that's positive. Kind of worrying that Martial's been at the club for 2 years and 3 yees and can't speak English yet, for a young man. Come on, sort it out, lad. It's sounding a bit UKIP there, isn't it?
Yeah, all right. Johnny Brexit over there. Been out of the country 5 minutes. You're already foreign domicile voting for Brexit.
Well, I'm in the States for the next month, so I'm going to come home, wearing jack boots and marching.
Trying to fit in. The the thing about Martial, he was really positive about him in the press conference before the game too, and said that the reason he'd been looking for another wide player was in order to play 3-5-2, not. So he wanted a player who could play wing back because Martial he described as a pure attacking player, which was, it's who knows if it's true or whatever, but it's just nice to hear. It's nice to hear him making the right noises at least.
Yeah. Swansea, I think we talked about Swansea, good candidates are going down last week. I think there's nothing about this game that suggests otherwise, really. I think they're in big trouble, so I'll give Sigurdsson for 45 million this week. I mean, that's a good figure, I'd say, even in this market for a player who's not really done anything away from Swansea.
The analytics guys are all saying that's a terrible transfer and his underlying numbers are terrible. Well, not terrible, but like average. And the kind of big headline stats are misleading. So it'll be interesting to see whether they're right about that one.
Yeah. I mean, Everton's spending big this season. They play Manchester City on Monday night. That'll be a good test for how good they are.
They're spending big, but would you have bought... I mean, obviously, you'd expect the United being for a different calibre of player, but like... I don't think one of their signings makes you go, oh yeah, that's great. What a great signing that is. That will really transform them. Maybe Davy Klaassen, but that's just...
Yeah, and I mean, and he did, well regarded in Holland, isn't he? But he was very poor in the Europa League final. Had no influence on that game at all. Also interesting to see where Klaassen and Sigurdsson play, because essentially they're playing the same role.
You know who else plays in that role?
Well, playing in that role is, I'm not sure that's right.
There you go.
Falls over the ball in that role.
That's your weekly 30 seconds. People were very...
Didn't even mention his name. Can't bring myself to do it anymore.
People were very sad at the prospect that this wouldn't be happening every week, so just get a little bit in there.
Well, will we get bored of this? I don't think so. It's too deeply ingrained.
There's been no evidence whatsoever so far that it's possible that we'll get bored of it.
I tell you what, if he scores the winner against City, I'll be his new biggest fan once again.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously ridiculously early to be drawing any conclusions, but the fact that we've won our first 2 games 4-0 definitely means we're going to win the league. I mean, you can't win 2 games in a row 4-0 and then not win the league. That'd be ridiculous.
No, the regression analysis on that one is going to show...
drawing conclusions too soon.
Yeah, we're going to score 120 points and lots of goals this season, apparently.
Okay, that was the Swansea game. It was glorious. Those 3 minutes were... I mean, by the end of those 3 minutes, I was delirious, like absolutely delirious. Because first of all, the first goal, the second goal of the game, the first goal of that spell, the Lukaku goal, it was so exciting because it was such a good goal, such a well-worked move. And that bit of quick thinking between Mkhitaryan and Lukaku was just like really exciting. And 2-0, and it's like, okay, we're actually going to win this game. That's amazing. And then for the floodgates just to burst over, all your favourites start scoring, Pogba and Martial, like the French lads. It was a heck of a feeling. It's obviously like just the second game of the season, but and we won our first. A lot of people, Mourinho even said we won our first 3 games last season and finished 6th, so he's not getting carried away. And this isn't in the spirit of getting carried away, but there was a really significant difference between our performance levels in the Bournemouth, Southampton, and Hull games last season and West Ham and Swansea. We were kind of flattered by the in the first half against Bournemouth, we were dreadful, and then we kind of got it together in the second half. Similar against Southampton, and we were definitely flattered by 2-0 in that game. And then Hull, we were just banging on the door for ages and ages and didn't make the breakthrough till late. So, it's a very different start to the season, even if the number of points we've put on the board is the same.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, the 2 opponents we faced so far aren't the strongest, clearly. And United are going to have a tougher test against Leicester, I guess. Beat Brighton today, and played well against Arsenal, at least in an attacking sense. That'll be one step up, and then there's a few other not super tough games for the first sort of 6 games or so, but a few tests in there before some of the really tough games come along. But hey. We said last week, If you're going to get a start of the season that's not the toughest, gain some momentum, and I think United are doing that
very clearly. So, shall we take a load of questions from listeners, given that there's only 2 games to talk about this week?
Well, let's do it.
Okay. At Kaimak says, almost scared to say it, but I think I like this Man United team. Pogba and Mata is a beautiful combination. Lukaku looks like he belongs. I kind of picked it just to sort of talk about the Lukaku looks like he belongs thing. Because again, this is very early days, but my goodness, does he look like he belongs? Like, there were a few moments where, like, there's the odd little bit of link-up play that doesn't quite work out, but that's inevitable because he's trying stuff at a very high level. Like, he's trying to ball with Pogba and Mata and Mkhitaryan and Rashford and Martial, which isn't necessarily his game or hasn't been, but he doesn't look out of place at all at United, does he?
No, I mean, for much of the second half, he didn't get much of a sniff against Swansea, and that was much to do with the way Swansea were playing, but he's taken his chances really well. He's already had a transformational effect on United's attack in terms of ability to play very, very quickly. He's not going to be the guy coming deep and bringing others into play all the time, but that's not what you want from Lukaku. He's slotted in really well. It's added an extra dimension to United's game. I think it's so far a very good purchase. He's going to score a lot of goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Very clearly that's already started to happen, hasn't it? At Oye Creations, friend of the show, says, last season we would have drawn this game 1-1. What a difference £115 million makes.
Yeah.
It's £115 million very well spent, though, isn't it? It's like laser-targeted money spent at addressing the significant weaknesses in the squad.
And it was needed.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you can also see, like, Mourinho talks a lot recently about not being miserable if we don't get the 4th. And you can really see why, because it definitely feels like, okay, these are the 3 that we absolutely need, and the 4th is the one that we want in order to have a bit more tactical flexibility. But in terms of, like, desperate needs, we're now at a position where the squad doesn't look like there are any desperate needs in the squad, apart from selling Marouane Fellaini. But listen, you can't have everything.
Yeah, Mourinho likes him. At least he only gets 15 minutes a game or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's not obvious that there'll be any more transfer business done. I mean, we'll see if there are any let go. It's a decent sized squad, but it's not overflowing or anything like that. Especially if there's a couple of injuries. So it's probably one centre back more than we need. But with Rojo out till the new year, then maybe not.
And one of them's Chris Smalling. So.
Yeah. And the other one's Phil Jones, who's bound to get injured. So yeah, maybe that's okay. And left back's an area that's an issue. But if Shaw does get fit and is determined and has got his head right, and a lot of ifs there, but that solves that problem. Yeah, and the left-sided attacking player, I mean, if Martial and Rashford are in this kind of form, there's absolutely no need for that kind of player. If he really wants to play with wing-backs, Darmian's not the man. No. Daley Blind definitely can play there, but it's not obvious that he's in great form right now. So you can see why Mourinho might want another player there. But it's not desperate. It's not. United are going to be okay this season. It's hard to... It's hard to be confident about a title challenge at this stage just yet, from where United were to where they need to go. So 24-point difference, 30 extra goals. But all the pointers are in the right direction so far. Yeah,
we've scored, Alex Shaw tweeting that United have scored 15% of the goals they scored last season already. So they're kind of on the way to making up that goal deficit. And I do think that 24-point gap has been talked about a lot. And of course, in the ultimate sense of it, that's the number of points that needed to be made up. But performance level wise, it's not clear to me that there was a 24. It's not clear to me that we were 24 points off the pace last season, performance level wise. There were so many draws that really, really should have been wins based on kind of the level of performance we hit. And there were 9 points at the end of the season which were just completely washed down the drain. We talked at length at the end of last season about why and whether that was a good idea or not. But ultimately, that 24-point gap in real terms to me is that's much more like a 12-point gap, which feels much more kind of achievable.
Yeah, Fair enough.
You mentioned Phil Jones as part of that conversation. Friend of the show, loads of friends of the show today. At Cal Gildart says, after such a cracking start, how long before Phil Jones breaks a hitherto unknown and unpronounceable bone in his body while blocking a goal-bound United effort on the line?
It's inevitable.
Yeah, it is. And having had a pop at a few United players, which we do with the utmost love and in the spirit of analysis rather than anything actually mean, even for Laney's case, I wanted to touch on a bit of a more delicate subject right now. I'm going to read this email received from Brendan in full because I found it very moving. Brendan wrote to us to say that the United family lost someone last night. Tom Gill, who was aged 95, he went to his first game at the age of 7 and had to give up when his legs gave up on him in his mid-80s. He gave every week of his life to United because he loved them. In his final days, when he was chair-bound and could hardly see, all he wanted to talk about was United. He was old school. He'd been in the director's box and virtually every seat of that stadium. He'd tell great stories about falling out with Sir Bobby in the director's box, forgetting his season ticket and being let in the ground with a pat on the back. He managed to hang out with the players and he'd tell stories about how he'd see the players, what he would say to the players when seeing them in town. Shouldn't you be at home? We have a game on Saturday. I spent many hours with him when he was chair-bound and losing his mind. When I spoke of the great United sides with him, he'd sit up straight and talk about the old times. In those moments, 10 years fell from his face. He was my granddad, and I'll miss our chats about United. He had some fantastic stories. I've seen him run up to people half his age and twice his size and say, "How dare you say that about one of our players?" He would not have a bad word said against United or any player. In his mind, you supported the shirt, and United is a family. We just wanted to say big love to Brendan and his family, and just acknowledge the passing of Tom Gill, who sounds like a lot of older Reds that I'm sure some of the older Reds listening to this would recognise that approach. And even though, you know, we have this show, so we do sometimes say bad things about United players because we're acknowledging the reality of performance levels. In my heart, I have a great deal of sympathy for that completely blinkered and beautifully so old school approach.
Very nice.
Yeah. So thanks, Brendan, and big love from the whole Rantcast family to your family, and I'll definitely be thinking of him every time I have a pop at Fellaini this season.
Which will be fairly frequent.
Yeah, I think it will be almost all the time. At Daily Blind FC says, will all world record transfers from now on be followed by the selling club buying Paulinho? Happened to Spurs and now Barca. Yeah, I can't believe he hasn't spent a season at Juve. What are Barcelona doing, Ed? What are they doing? What has happened to Barcelona? They're in terrible trouble. They've got like 3 good players left.
Yeah, they've got more than 3 good players. They've got plenty of good players, but obviously they were soundly beaten by Real Madrid in the Super Cup, weren't they, in the last week or so. Paulinho seems a very strange one, but if you read reports that I don't watch any Chinese football, so, you know, I'm just quoting reports. Apparently he has been the best player in China for the last 2 years, outperforming all of the big names that went there. Seems a stretch, gotta say, because I remember how shit he was at Spurs, but hey.
I mean, to me, it's not that it's a stretch that he was the best player in China. It's come on, like, we can all be the best player in China. I mean, not literally, but, you know, the competition is relatively, that means you just have to be better than Oscar.
Yeah, exactly. And Carlos Tevez, when he can be bothered to turn up, which isn't very often. They are trying very hard to buy Coutinho, who wants out of Liverpool, and I guess in the end it will go down to the sort of fight. I mean, Liverpool playing a very funny game there, like making public statements and stuff about it. You know, I don't. It's hard at this stage when a player so desperately wants out to see how they can win from this situation. I mean, they did the same thing with Suarez. In the end, they're just going to take a fee, aren't they?
Well,
which is topping 100 million at the moment.
Yeah, the story this week is that Barcelona bid 114 million pounds for Coutinho and Liverpool turned it down. And like the question doing the rounds is, which of those decisions is more ridiculous? Because Coutinho, he's not Neymar. Like, Coutinho's fine. don't think I'd have Coutinho at United particularly. Like, certainly don't watch Liverpool and think, like Sadio Mane last season, kind of thought, we could probably have done with him. But I never watched Coutinho and thought, I wish he'd come to us. Maybe that's one of those that, like, as soon as he's not in a Liverpool shirt anymore, I'll be able to see clearly. The scales will fall from the eyes, But
well, I don't mind if they want to spunk the money on Coutinho, as long as it's not Anthony Martial.
Exactly.
And watch his last 2 performances; they'll be upping the numbers, won't they? Yes, they've clearly been rattled by the Neymar thing. And they need a couple of mega signings to appease the fans.
Yeah, it would seem to me that spending that half the Neymar money on Coutinho, or more than half the Neymar money on Coutinho, would be a really weird move. Ousmane Dembele, you can at least say, okay, well, he's got his absolutely whole career ahead of him. Maybe Coutinho's the same age, actually. I don't know. I think of him as a bit older, but maybe that's...
No, he is, yeah.
Right,
he's also a very different player. He's not a forward as such. Are they going to change their system and play with Coutinho behind Suarez and Messi?
Yeah, maybe that would kind of make sense with the personnel. Or they go for Dembele and Coutinho and play Coutinho as one of the midfield 3 and Dembele, Suarez and Messi up front, which then you're starting to think, okay, that does still sound like quite a good team. Talking of transfers, at JSF_7, another friend of the show, says no need for Griezmann because Mickey is our number 10. Discuss. I mean, I do think you don't look at this side and go, what this team really needs? Antoine Griezmann. I mean, I'd be over the moon if and when he ever signed for United, but doesn't look like...
Next summer, yeah. No, I mean, I don't think Griezmann's not the obvious player that United desperately need right now. Then again, if 100 million for the exit clause actually looks decent value currently, doesn't it? So
just buy him and sell him on for 250 million a week later.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If he became available, changed his mind, and United were prepared to spend the money, yeah, hell, why not?
Well, I mean, I think the answer to the question why not is it causes even more of a problem for some really good players that we want to see in the side get into the side. But then again, Pogba, Martial and Griezmann all in the same side. I'd just be so happy. There would be then no difference to me between the regular football season and the World Cup. They'd just be the same, equally joyous. At Jamie Townsend says, are we all guilty of judging the Matic signing too early? Me and most of I saw on Twitter were not happy, but he's the first name on the team sheet now. And I think one of the interesting things is I think maybe we are all guilty of judging the Matic signing too early, but the other way round. So I do think there was a kind of collective shrug, a collective meh about the signing of Matic, which so far looks very misguided. But maybe we'll see in a season or two, if he starts to drop off or whatever, because Matic's form has always quite oscillated quite a lot, hasn't it? So maybe from the other angle, actually, we're all going, oh my goodness, he's the second coming. And he has been fantastic so far. It does look like a brilliant transfer, but maybe there's the long tail on this transfer will tell a different story. Although, given what we were just talking about with money, maybe 50 million just doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, look,
I think there's a lack of excitement about a player like Matic because he is a water carrier. He's not a game changer. He's someone who gives stability to and shape to United's defensive unit, and he's done that very well so far. He's also in these 2 games been able to actually help United's attacking play too, because he's as we've seen, a very fine passer of the ball and a decent mover. Definitely not quick, but decent mover around the pitch. So in these types of games, he's been very, very dominant. The games that really count are against the really top midfields. Then we'll see how dominant he is. We'll see. There is a reason why Chelsea were happy to let him go. They've got an even more dynamic player in Bakayoko. I have reservations about how high quality Bakayoko really is, but we'll see who's right in that decision, won't we? But Mourinho's been really clear. He said he's the player we needed. He's the exact right fit. And from a point of view of just slotting into the team, he knows English football. Is the kind of player we needed. It's a perfect signing.
Andy United says, where does wonder kid James Wilson fit into our lineup? Now we have Lukaku. Oh, poor old James Wilson.
On loan somewhere in the Championship, I guess. At the
club, which is almost surprising. I wonder if we might not even see a permanent move for Wilson now. Permanent move, buyback clause, kind of seems to make sense because there's just no obvious route to the first team for him, is there?
No, he's got to go for his own career.
This one also made me laugh. At WJ Horan says, if Lukaku was a bag of crisps, what flavour would it be? I was going to go with salt and vinegar because the first touch can sometimes be a little bit sharp, but then afterwards is like delicious and exactly what you need.
Chili, because he is hot at the moment.
At Blabberwan says, following on from last week's pod, will Eric Bailly score more goals than Wayne Rooney this season?
Well, one each at the moment.
Oh dear, that one really made me chuckle. Tom Fox, Mr. TJ Fox, asking why they were booing Rashford. Clearly because of their dive and the dive last season. And then the final question of the week. Oh no, the penultimate question of the week is from at 9th Connor. He says, when United signs Zlatan and Griezmann in January, will these pesky 4-0 wins turn into comfortable 8-0 wins?
or slightly nervous 1-0 wins. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, and not obvious right at the moment why United would need Zlatan. Plenty of striking firepower. And a more dynamic style.
Yeah, absolutely. At AB5Y says, PMRMML doesn't have the same ring to it as BBC or MSN. Mourinho out. Fair enough. So yeah, that's Pogba, Martial, Rashford, Mkhitaryan, Mata, Lukaku, I guess. That's a pretty good front six by anyone's record, isn't it?
There's a lot of talent there.
It really is. Okay, so thank you for all the questions, and as always, apologies to people whose questions we didn't get to, but we had tons and tons, which always happens when... I was going to say it always happens when United are good, but it always happens when United are bad too. It just always happens. So I guess we should give at least passing mention to the fact that we've got a game. You mentioned that it might be a slightly tougher test. Leicester at home.
Well, yeah.
But
Leicester beat Brighton on Saturday. Obviously, they had that very exciting, if comedic, loss against Arsenal on the opening day. Look a little more like old Leicester, I guess, in beating Brighton. They very low possession count and took their chances.
The only thing is if they play anything like they did against Arsenal, we are going to score so many goals. Because if they leave anything like that amount of space for United, then I think a repeat of the 4-3 wouldn't be beyond question. And I kind of don't want to jinx this, but I think we might have better defenders than Arsenal. So maybe our defending won't be as absolutely clownish as theirs was in that game. So we might not concede 3 either.
No, that's right. I mean, Leicester, they brought in Harry Maguire, who's a very different player to defenders they've had there in the past. In their title-winning team, he's a ball player. Still a young player, 1 season's worth of experience in the Premier League. You figure he's going to make mistakes, but he is a talented player. Wes Morgan, you know exactly what you're getting out of him. Very, very solid defender. But they play the way they play. They still play quite direct. Under Craig Shakespeare, now the permanent manager. Looks like Vardy's got some of his mojo back. Didn't have a great season last season, did he? They're playing with Okazaki alongside him at the moment. We'll see whether Iheanacho gets into the side when he's fit. He's not fit just yet.
He played, didn't he, against Leicester, against Arsenal? Sorry, I don't know if he. I haven't seen the Brighton games,
he wasn't in. He wasn't in the squad.
Okay.
So. It should be an interesting game for United. I mean, definitely a test, but in the form that United are in, given the goals that Leicester conceded against Arsenal, you'd think this is one that the Reds are going to win.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that Leicester are going to come to Old Trafford and absolutely try and park the bus because they just don't have it in them. They must know that that's not a winning strategy for them. So they'll have a go and we'll have a go, and that should, unless something goes really wrong, that should play right into our favour. They're definitely not going to play with a back 5, for example, are they? It's going to be 2 centre backs against the PMRLMM, which that it'll be.
Yeah. No, it will be 2 at the back, and I think United will dominate in midfield as well. I mean, you're going to have Mkhitaryan running between those lines of probably Ndidi and Matty James. We'll see exactly how they line up. Okazaki, comes back into midfield, of course. He's that kind of player, but I think I'm going to fancy Pogba, Matic and Mkhitaryan versus that trio to dominate the game. And, we'll probably see United with 70% possession. It's going to be, breaking them down and then hitting them on the break if they come forward. Although this is a Leicester side that much prefers to play on the break than in possession.
The big question for United then, I suspect, barring injuries, we'll see at least 10 of the 11 the same, because why would you change it? But the big question just is, do we play Martial or Rashford in that wide left position? I would worry slightly about sending the message to Rashford that what he's doing isn't enough, which I don't think Mourinho would perceive it that way, because I think he's doing everything Mourinho's asking him to do. But on the other hand, you've got a player who is clearly on absolute fire. And right now, this is with no kind of disparagement towards Rashford whatsoever, but right now, Martial should be ahead of Rashford in the natural pecking order, you would think.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. And look, the other message is, if Martial can't get in the side right now, when can he get in the side?
Yes, that's. I guess the answer to that is when injuries and suspensions, and when the games mount up, and when we're not just playing one game a week, and all this kind of thing. So there is an answer to that question. But if it's just on form, then yeah, what more could he have done? Because obviously he has benefited from coming on late twice when there's been more space for him to operate in. But in both these games, Rashford has had big chances. He was kind of unlucky to hit the inside of the post against West Ham, but against Swansea, he didn't take the natural chance that fell to him. Whereas Martial's just been ice cold, hasn't he? So yeah, I would start Martial, and that is I don't know. I'm a huge fan of Marcus Rashford, and I want almost nothing more for this United side than for Rashford to live up to the maximum of his potential. But right now, I'd say you kind of got to give Martial a start, really.
Well, there'll be plenty of games this season, so I'm sure, if neither is injured, both Martial and Marcus Rashford play 40 games each or more this season. And Rashford played more than 50 last season, didn't he? Coming on as a substitute in plenty of them. So lots of football for them. I guess it's Mourinho's got a good problem and they're both in form.
Yeah. What would you do? You'd play Martial?
I think Martial deserves a start. I think he was good enough in It's not just the two late substitute appearances. He was good through pre-season as well.
Yeah.
He's playing well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be good to see him in the side.
Yeah. And that's not to say that Rashford isn't playing well, because he definitely is. He was a vitally important part of why we won both those games. He created all sorts of problems for defences in both the games. So it's lovely. Isn't it lovely? Isn't it lovely? Man United being good, scoring goals, horses running free, Rooney's at Everton. It's great. It's just all good.
Yeah, but Marouane Fellaini.
You can't have everything. It's like the artists, the old religious artists who put a deliberate flaw in the work because only God can be perfect. This is what Mourinho's doing.
So I read your piece about relating comic book heroes to Manchester United legends, which was good fun. But you've got to do a follow-up piece to this. Which United players are comic book villains? Who is Marouane Fellaini?
That's a very good idea. I might pitch that. Yeah, I wrote that article ages ago, and then they were like, "Oh, we're going to use this to plug Zlatan Ibrahimovic's new mobile app." And I was like, "Okay, I don't really ideally want my stuff to be used in advertising copy, but if it is, I'm glad it's for Zlatan Ibrahimovic."
Very good. Well, we'll see next week against Leicester who's the hero and who's the villain. I know.
I loved it.
I'm here all week.
There's no irony there. I just loved it. It was beautiful. What do you think the score's going to be? Are you going to? Is your superpower seeing into the future and predicting football scores?
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's plenty of evidence that it is a power on the wane. Someone's pack the kryptonite into my case somewhere. I'm going to say a bit tighter this time round. A 2-1 victory for United.
I think we're going to win 4-0 again. The evidence would suggest that 100% of games so far this season we've won 4-0.
It's hard. I mean, you're clearly a football stats man.
Yeah, clearly. Yep. So 4-0 this week. R equals 100% on United winning 4-0.
Yeah.
So yeah,
did we even predict the Swansea game? I think we may have forgotten to do that last week.
I feel like we did. I think I said 3-1, but I don't remember for sure. Right. Maybe we didn't.
No one else does either. I doubt anyone's keeping a record.
If someone wants to keep a record, that'd be great. 2 points. 1 point for a win. 5 points for the correct. 1 point for the right result. 5 points for the correct score. Who gets more points over the season?
Yeah, good. What does the winner get?
I don't know. The sense of satisfaction from winning.
Bragging rights.
Man United know all about that, don't they?
They do. 2 and 2. Because we don't count the Euro Shield, whatever it's called. Definitely doesn't count.
The Euro Vase.
And I think you'll be 3-3 after next week's victory over Leicester. Looking forward to it. I'm in Seattle at the moment, and it's actually a reasonable time.
Right.
5:30 kickoff in the UK, so I'm going to find a pub, and if any Reds in Seattle feel like coming to watch the game with me, I'll find a pub somewhere around.
Nice. If any Reds fancy watching a game with me, I'll be at the Trinity statue from about half an hour before kickoff, because I'll get to go to Old Trafford. I'm in this season, so I'm excited about that. I mean, there's only been one game, but I'm excited to go because it's been a long time. So that Crystal Palace game, it feels both like it was like the week before last, and it was like ancient history, both at once. So anyway,
deep.
See everyone next week. Patreon backers, stay tuned for more Rantcast.
Bye.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.